My husband spent $8,000 on my brother but gave me a keychain, so I drained his savings. I stared at the gas station keychain dangling from my finger, the plastic already cracking after 2 days. Happy anniversary, babe, Derek had said with that sheepish smile I used to find endearing. Sorry it's not much, but you know how tight things are right now. 3 years of marriage, and this is what I got. A $2.99 piece of junk he probably grabbed while buying cigarettes. It's fine, I'd lied, swallowing the disappointment like I always did. We'll do something nice next year when finances are better. Derek had kissed my forehead and launched into his usual speech about needing to build our emergency fund, how we had to be responsible adults, how every dollar counted. Meanwhile, I'd been wearing the same work clothes for 2 years and driving a car that needed 3 tries to start every morning. But that was Tuesday. Today was Friday, and I was standing in our bedroom holding Derek's laptop, staring at a bank statement that made my hands shake with rage. Transfer to Marcus Chen $3,000 March 15th. Transfer to Marcus Chen $2,500 March 28th. Transfer to Marcus Chen $1,800 April 10th. Transfer to Marcus Chen $700 April 15th. Marcus. My unemployed, chronically irresponsible brother who'd been between jobs for 8 months and lived in our parents' basement playing video games. $8,000. Derek had secretly given my brother $8,000 while telling me we couldn't afford to replace my broken coffee maker. I scrolled through Derek's text messages with shaking fingers, finding the thread with Marcus. Asterisk Derek, just sent another $1,800. This should cover the car down payment. Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus, you're a lifesaver, man. Sarah doesn't need to know, right? You know how she gets about money. Asterisk. Asterisk Derek, our secret. Just focus on getting back on your feet. Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus, thanks bro. You're better to me than my own sister sometimes, lol asterisk. I had to grip the dresser to keep from throwing the laptop across the room. How I get about money. I got responsible about money. I clipped coupons and bought generic brands and hadn't purchased new clothes in months because my husband said we needed to be careful. Meanwhile, he was playing fairy godfather to my lazy brother behind my back. The bedroom door creaked, and I quickly closed the laptop. Derek appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie from another day at the accounting firm. Hey honey, how was your day? He walked over and kissed my cheek, the same routine as always. Fine. I managed to keep my voice steady. Yours? Long Johnson's been on my case about the quarterly reports. He started unbuttoning his shirt. Oh, I was thinking maybe we could do pizza tonight? I know we usually cook, but I'm beat. Pizza. $30 we supposedly couldn't spare, while he'd handed my brother enough money to buy a used car. Sure, I said. Whatever you want. He smiled that warm smile that used to make my heart flutter. Now it just made me sick. You're the best, Sarah. I don't know what I'd do without you. I watched him head to the shower, humming off-key like he didn't have a care in the world. Like he hadn't just blown our entire savings on my deadbeat brother while giving his wife garbage for their anniversary. Derek thought he was so clever, hiding his good deeds from his uptight wife. Playing the generous brother-in-law while keeping me on a shoestring budget. Well, two could play the secret money game. I opened his laptop again and navigated to our online banking. Time to see exactly how much my husband valued my brother over me. And time to show him what betrayal actually cost. The numbers on the screen made everything worse. Our joint savings account, $847 remaining out of what should have been $12,000. I'd been wondering why Derek seemed so relaxed about money lately, why he'd stopped his obsessive weekly budget reviews. Turns out it wasn't because our finances had improved, it was because he'd already spent everything. His personal checking account told an even more infuriating story. Derek had been moving money in careful increments, $500 here, $800 there, all transferred to a secondary account I didn't have access to before being funneled to Marcus. He'd planned this. Calculated it. Made spreadsheets, probably, because that's what Derek did. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Jenna, asterisk coffee tomorrow? I want to hear about anniversary dinner. Asterisk. Anniversary dinner. Right. The dinner that never happened because Derek said Applebee's was too expensive. I scrolled further back in Derek's messages, looking for when this financial betrayal started. February 14th, Valentine's Day. The day Derek gave me a card from the dollar store and said we should keep it simple this year. Asterisk Marcus, Derek, I'm drowning here. Mom's threatening to kick me out if I don't pay her back the $600 I borrowed. Asterisk. Asterisk Derek, how much do you need total? Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus, honestly? Like $8,000 would clear everything and get me a car so I can actually job hunt. Asterisk. Asterisk Derek, let me see what I can do. Asterisk. $8,000. Marcus had literally given Derek a number, and my husband had said yes. No negotiation, no payment plan, no conditions. Just handed over our entire financial cushion to my brother who'd never held a job longer than 3 months. The shower was still running. I grabbed my own phone and pulled up my text thread with Marcus, scrolling back to February. Right around Valentine's Day, his messages to me had changed. Asterisk Marcus, hey sis, things are looking up. Got some opportunities coming through. Asterisk. Asterisk me, that's great. What kind of opportunities? Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus, just some stuff with transportation and getting my credit sorted. Don't want to jinx it by talking about it too much lol asterisk. He'd been lying to me too. Both of them, keeping me in the dark while they played their little financial shell game. I found our insurance information in Derek's email and noted down the account numbers. Then his retirement fund details. His credit card statements. The savings account he'd opened 3 months ago, the one that currently held $4,200, probably money he'd been siphoning from our joint expenses. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady as I photographed every screen, every account number, every password saved in Derek's browser. The shower turned off. I quickly closed everything and set the laptop aside, my mind racing. $8,000. That was the price Derek put on keeping me happy, 0. But my brother's happiness? Worth our emergency fund, our vacation savings, our future. Derek emerged from the bathroom in his boxers, hair dripping, completely oblivious to the fact that his entire financial world was about to implode. Should I call for that pizza now? He asked, toweling his hair. Absolutely, I said, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. Get whatever you want. Don't worry about the cost. He grinned. Look at you, living dangerously. I'll get us the works. Living dangerously. If Derek only knew. I watched him grab his phone to place the order, chatting about extra cheese and breadsticks like money was no object. Funny how spending $30 on dinner was fine, but buying his wife something nicer than a gas station keychain was financially irresponsible. But giving my unemployed brother enough money to buy a car? That was just Derek being generous. Tomorrow was Saturday. Derek always played golf with his buddies on Saturday mornings, which would give me 3 uninterrupted hours to teach my husband about the real cost of keeping secrets. Saturday morning came with Derek's usual routine, coffee, sports highlights, and 20 minutes of hunting for his lucky golf glove. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, pretending to browse social media while he grabbed his clubs from the garage. I should be back by noon, he called out, jingling his keys. Maybe we can catch a matinee if there's anything good playing? A movie. Another $12 expense he'd probably suggest we skip once he remembered we were budgeting. Sounds perfect, I replied, not looking up from my screen. The garage door rumbled shut, and I was alone. I waited 5 minutes to make sure he hadn't forgotten anything, then opened our banking app. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard for exactly 3 seconds before I started typing. Transfer from joint savings to my personal checking, $847. The account Derek thought held our emergency fund was now empty. Next, I navigated to Derek's personal checking account. The one with $4,200 that he'd been so carefully hiding. His password was still saved from last night's investigation, Sarah 2019. The year we bought the house. How sentimental. Transfer to my checking account, $4,200. My phone buzzed with banking notifications. Confirmation numbers. Digital receipts of my husband's financial betrayal coming home to roost. But I wasn't done. Derek's secondary savings account, the one he'd opened in March, right when the transfers to Marcus started, held another $2,100. Money that should have gone toward fixing my car or replacing our ancient washing machine. Transfer complete, $2,100. $7,000. Still less than what Derek had secretly given my brother, but it was a start. I opened a new browser tab and searched luxury spa resorts within driving distance. If Derek could play financial hide-and-seek, I could play too. The Grandview Mountain Resort looked perfect, 3 days, 2 nights, full spa package, meals included. $1,200. Booked. Then I opened another tab, Nordstrom. I'd been wearing the same 5 work outfits on rotation for 2 years while Derek preached about fiscal responsibility. Time to fix that problem. 2 hours later, I'd ordered $800 worth of clothes, scheduled a hair appointment at the most expensive salon in town, $300, and booked a facial, $150. My Amazon cart was full of things I'd been wanting for months, new coffee maker, Egyptian cotton sheets, the kitchen knife set Derek said was unnecessarily fancy. My phone rang. Marcus. I stared at his name on the screen, debating whether to answer. Part of me wanted to let him know his gravy train was about to derail. But a bigger part wanted to see how this played out naturally. I answered on the 4th ring. Hey Sarah. How's your Saturday going? Great, actually. Just doing some online shopping. I clicked confirm purchase on a $200 cashmere sweater. How's the new car treating you? Brief silence. Car? Derek mentioned you were car shopping. Must be nice to finally have reliable transportation for job hunting. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been helpful. Marcus's voice carried that guilty tone I remembered from childhood, when Mom would catch him stealing cookies. Actually, I've got some interviews lined up next week. Lies came so easily to the men in my life. That's wonderful. What kind of positions? Just some administrative stuff. You know how it is. No, I didn't know how it was. I'd never been unemployed for 8 months while my sister's husband funded my lifestyle. Well, I should let you go, I said, adding a $400 stand mixer to my cart. Derek's playing golf, and I'm having a very productive morning. After hanging up, I sat back and surveyed my financial damage. Derek's accounts were now nearly empty, save for enough to cover his half of next month's mortgage and utilities. The same consideration he'd shown me when deciding how much to spend on our anniversary gift. The irony was delicious. Derek had been so careful to hide his generosity toward Marcus, making spreadsheets and moving money in small increments to avoid detection. Meanwhile, I just stripped his accounts clean in under 3 hours using the passwords he'd saved on his own laptop. My phone buzzed with another banking notification, and I smiled. Derek would be discovering my own version of financial planning very soon. Let's see how generous he felt when the shoe was on the other foot. My shopping spree was interrupted by Derek's ringtone at 10:47 a.m. He never called during golf unless something was wrong. Hey babe, his voice was tight with forced casualness. Quick question, did you move any money around this morning? I'm getting some weird notifications on my phone. I paused my browsing of luxury handbags. What kind of notifications? Just account alerts. Probably nothing. My banking app's been glitchy lately. Liar. Derek's banking app worked perfectly. He checked it obsessively every morning like other people check the weather. No, I haven't touched anything, I said smoothly. Are you okay? You sound stressed. I'm fine. Just wanted to double check before I called the bank about fraudulent activity. Fraudulent activity. The audacity was breathtaking. That's probably smart, I agreed. Identity theft is so common these days. Someone could drain your accounts without you even knowing. Silence stretched between us. I could practically hear the gears turning in Derek's head, trying to figure out how to check his balances without alerting his golf buddies that something was wrong. I should probably head home and sort this out, he finally said. Don't you dare. I put just enough concern in my voice to sound authentic. You never get time with the guys anymore. I'm sure it's just a technical glitch. Besides, what's the worst that could happen in a few hours? Another pause. Derek was trapped between his need to investigate and his desire not to look paranoid in front of his friends. You're probably right, he said, but I could hear him walking away from the group, lowering his voice. It's just, the amounts in these alerts seem really high. How high? I asked, genuinely curious to know which transfers had triggered his notifications. Like, thousands. But that's impossible, right? We don't even have thousands to move around. Oh, Derek. We didn't have thousands because you gave them all to my brother. That definitely sounds like a computer error, I said, clicking buy now on a $600 leather jacket. The bank will sort it out Monday if it's still showing up wrong. I heard one of his golf buddies calling his name in the background. Derek, come on. You're holding up the game. I really think I should come home, Derek said. And I really think you're worrying over nothing. I softened my voice, the way I used to when I actually cared about his peace of mind. Enjoy your game. We'll figure out the computer glitch later. A long exhale. Okay. You're right. I'm probably being paranoid. You are. Have fun, honey. Love you. Love you too. The line went dead, and I immediately burst into laughter. Derek was somewhere on hole 3, trying to focus on his swing while his phone buzzed with notifications about his disappearing money. The same money he'd hidden from me for months. My laptop chimed with an email confirmation. The spa resort had upgraded me to their premier suite at no extra charge due to availability. Sometimes the universe had a sense of humor. I was scrolling through artisanal jewelry websites when my phone rang again. This time it was my mother. Sarah, honey, have you talked to Marcus lately? My finger hovered over a $300 necklace. Not really. Why? He's been acting strange the past few days. Secretive. And yesterday I saw him putting gas in a Honda Civic I've never seen before. Marcus's new car. Bought with my anniversary money. Maybe he borrowed it from a friend? I suggested. That's what he said, but... Mom's voice carried that worried tone she'd perfected during Marcus's teenage years. You know how your brother gets when he's hiding something. I'm concerned he's gotten himself into some kind of trouble. If only she knew. Marcus wasn't in trouble, he was the golden boy being secretly funded by my generous husband while I got lectured about buying name brand cereal. I wouldn't worry too much, I said, adding the necklace to my cart. Marcus is an adult. He can handle his own affairs. I suppose you're right. Oh, speaking of affairs, how was your anniversary dinner? Derek mentioned he had something special planned. I nearly choked. He mentioned that to you? Last week at the grocery store. He seemed so excited, said he'd been saving up for months to surprise you. Saving up for months. To surprise me. With a gas station keychain. The lies just kept multiplying. Mom, I need to go, I said, my voice sharper than intended. I have some things to take care of. Of course, honey. Give my love to Derek. I hung up and stared at my phone, processing what she'd just told me. Derek had been bragging to my mother about saving up for months to surprise me. Saving up. While he was secretly hemorrhaging money to Marcus, he was telling my own mother that he had something special planned for our anniversary. A gas station keychain. That was his months of saving. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from shock, it was from pure, crystallized rage. I'd been giving Derek the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe he'd made an impulsive decision to help Marcus. But this was calculated deception on multiple levels. I opened Derek's laptop again and dug deeper into his email history. What I found made my stomach turn. An email thread with Marcus from January, 2 full months before the money transfer started. Asterisk Derek, I've been thinking about what we discussed. Sarah doesn't need to know I'm helping you get back on your feet. She's got enough stress with work. Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus, are you sure? I mean, I appreciate it, but won't you notice the money? Asterisk. Asterisk Derek, I'll handle Sarah. Trust me, it's better this way. She gets anxious about finances, and this would just worry her unnecessarily. Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus, you're probably right. She's always been weird about money stuff. Asterisk. Asterisk Derek, exactly. This stays between us. I'll start setting aside money after the holidays. Asterisk. They've been planning this since January. While I was clipping coupons and agonizing over whether we could afford a $30 dinner out, my husband and brother were orchestrating a financial conspiracy behind my back. But the next email made me see red. Asterisk Derek, anniversary is coming up in July. I need to keep things low-key this year since I'm helping you out. Can you maybe mention to Sarah that times are tough? She listens to you. Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus, sure thing. I'll drop some hints about the economy being rough. Asterisk. Derek had coached my brother to help sell me on our tight finances. The same finances that were tight because Derek was secretly playing benefactor. I scrolled further and found a spreadsheet Derek had created titled M Project Budget. It was a detailed breakdown of every dollar he planned to give Marcus. Car down payment, $3,000. Credit card debt, $2,800. Mom's loan payback, $600. Security deposit for apartment, $1,200. Emergency buffer, $400. He budgeted my brother's entire life makeover down to the penny. The same man who made me justify buying organic milk had crafted a financial plan to completely subsidize my unemployed brother's existence. The garage door rumbled open. Derek was back early. I quickly closed the laptop and arranged myself on the couch with a magazine, my heart hammering. Through the window, I could see Derek sitting in his car, phone pressed to his ear. Probably calling the bank, discovering that his accounts were as empty as his anniversary gesture had been meaningful. He was out there for 10 minutes. When he finally came inside, his face was pale and his golf clothes were wrinkled like he'd been gripping the fabric. Hey, he said, his voice carefully controlled. How was your morning? Productive. I turned a page in the magazine without reading it. How was golf? Fine. Actually, I need to ask you something. Derek sat on the coffee table facing me, his hands clasped tightly. Sarah, did you access any of our accounts today? I looked up from an article about vacation destinations, meeting his eyes with perfect innocence. Our joint account? No, why would I? What about my personal accounts? Derek, I don't even have the passwords to your personal accounts. Which was technically true, I didn't have them. I'd simply used the ones he'd saved on his own laptop. His face cycled through confusion, fear, and something that might have been suspicion. Someone moved money. A lot of money. The bank says the transfers were authorized from my laptop. That's terrifying. I closed the magazine and reached for his hand. Should we call the police? Derek stared at our joined hands, his mind clearly racing. He was trapped in a logic puzzle of his own making. Either someone had stolen thousands from his accounts, or his wife had somehow discovered his secret financial activities and retaliated. Both options were devastating, but only one was true. Maybe we should check your laptop for malware, I suggested helpfully. Hackers are so sophisticated these days. Derek's eyes narrowed slightly at my suggestion. Malware. Right. He was quiet for a long moment, studying my face like he was trying to solve an equation. Sarah, the transfers, they went to an account with your name on it. My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. What do you mean? I mean someone transferred $7,000 from my accounts to yours. This morning. While I was at golf. His voice was getting steadier, more accusatory. The bank has timestamps. 8:23 a.m., 8:31 a.m., 8:45 a.m. I pulled my hand back from his. Are you accusing me of something? I'm asking you directly. Did you take money from my accounts? The moment hung between us like a blade. I could lie, keep playing the innocent victim, maybe even convince him his laptop had been compromised. Or I could end this charade and have the conversation we should have had months ago. Yes, I said simply. Derek's face went through several expressions before landing on shocked anger. Yes? Just yes? Sarah, that's theft. Is it? I stood up and walked to the kitchen, needing distance and something to do with my hands. Because I'm pretty sure theft is when you take someone's money without their knowledge or consent. Like, hypothetically, spending $8,000 of your family's savings on your wife's brother while telling her you can't afford to replace her broken coffee maker. The silence behind me was deafening. I opened the refrigerator and pretended to look for something, giving Derek time to process the fact that his secret was out. How did you? His voice was barely a whisper. Your laptop. Same one you used to plan your little charity project with Marcus. I turned around, leaning against the counter. Interesting reading. Especially the part where you coached my brother to convince me we were struggling financially. Derek's face had gone from pale to gray. Sarah, I can explain. Oh, please do. Explain how you spent months lying to my face about our finances. Explain how you gave my unemployed brother a car while giving your wife a keychain from a gas station. I'm genuinely curious about the logic. He stood up abruptly, running his hands through his hair. It wasn't like that. Marcus was desperate, and you get so stressed about money. I was trying to protect you from worrying about it. Protect me? I laughed, sharp and bitter. You were protecting me by making me feel guilty for wanting basic things? By letting me think we couldn't afford groceries while you played fairy godfather behind my back. Marcus is family. So am I. The words came out louder than I intended. I'm your wife, Derek. I'm supposed to be your priority, not the person you lie to so you can help everyone else. Derek started pacing, his golf shoes clicking against the hardwood. You don't understand the pressure Marcus was under. Mom was going to kick him out, his credit was destroyed. And what about the pressure I was under? Working overtime to help with bills while you lectured me about spending? Driving a car that breaks down twice a week because we supposedly couldn't afford repairs? I crossed my arms. But sure, let's talk about poor Marcus and his hard life of playing video games in his mother's basement. That's not fair. He's been trying to get his life together. With our money. Money you stole from our future to fund his fresh start. I pushed off from the counter, moving closer. And the best part? You had the audacity to tell my mother you'd been saving up for months to surprise me for our anniversary. She's probably still waiting to hear about this amazing surprise you planned. Derek stopped pacing. You talked to your mom? She called this morning. While I was transferring your money, actually. Perfect timing. I smiled without warmth. She also mentioned seeing Marcus with a new car. Funny how that works out. Sarah, please. Let me explain why I. There is no explanation that makes this okay. I cut him off. You made a choice, Derek. You chose to prioritize my brother's comfort over your wife's trust. You chose to lie to me for months while playing the generous savior. You chose to make me feel like a burden for wanting basic respect in my own marriage. Derek sank into the armchair, his head in his hands. I was trying to help him. I thought you'd understand if you knew. Then why didn't you tell me? Why all the secrecy and lies? He looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something that looked like genuine remorse. Because I knew you'd say no. And he needed help. The honesty was almost worse than the lies. Derek had known exactly what he was doing. He'd known I would object to funding Marcus's lifestyle, so he'd simply cut me out of the decision entirely. So you decided for both of us, I said quietly. I decided to help your brother when he was drowning. You decided my opinion didn't matter. That our marriage was something you could navigate around instead of through. I sat back down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. Do you have any idea how that feels? Derek was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was defensive. Marcus said you'd react like this. He warned me you'd make it all about you instead of seeing that someone in our family needed help. The words hit like a physical blow. He warned you about me? He said you've always been jealous of the attention he gets from your parents. That you'd be upset about him getting help because you like being the successful one. I felt my mouth fall open. Are you kidding me right now? Derek shifted uncomfortably. I'm just telling you what he said. He knows you better than I do, he's your brother. Marcus has been unemployed for 8 months, Derek. 8 months of sleeping until noon and playing video games while our parents pay his phone bill and buy his groceries. But I'm jealous of him? I stood up again, too angry to sit still. What exactly am I supposed to be jealous of? His complete inability to function as an adult? You don't have to be cruel about it. Cruel? I spun around to face him. What's cruel is my own husband believing my unemployed brother's psychological assessment of me over actually asking what I think. What's cruel is you two sitting around discussing my character flaws while planning how to spend my money behind my back. Derek's phone buzzed on the coffee table. He glanced at it and his expression tightened. Marcus? I asked. He nodded, declining the call. He's probably wondering why I haven't responded to his texts. What texts? Derek hesitated, then handed me his phone. He's been messaging me all morning. I scrolled through the thread, my anger crystallizing into something colder and more focused. Asterisk Marcus 9:15 a.m. Yo, can you send another $500? Found a sweet apartment but need first month's rent by Monday asterisk. Asterisk Marcus 9:47 a.m. Derek? You there? Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus 10:23 a.m. Dude, this is time sensitive. The landlord has other people interested asterisk. Asterisk Marcus 11:15 a.m. Starting to worry something happened. Call me? Asterisk. Asterisk Marcus 11:52 a.m. Sarah's not answering either. Everything okay? Asterisk. I looked up at Derek. He wants another $500? The apartment is a good opportunity for him. It's across town from your parents, so he'd have more independence. Independence that we're paying for. It's an investment in his future. I scrolled back further in their messages, finding weeks of casual requests. 200 here, 50 there, all framed as emergencies or opportunities. Derek had been Marcus's personal ATM for months. Jesus, Derek. Look at this. I held up the phone, pointing to a message from last week. He asked you for money to take a girl on a date. You gave him $100 so he could impress some woman he met online. That's not what that was about. Really? Because the message says need to make a good impression on this girl tonight. Dinner money? And you sent him $100 30 minutes later. Derek reached for his phone, but I pulled it back, continuing to scroll. The pattern was even worse than I'd initially discovered. Marcus had been treating Derek like his personal bank account, sending requests for everything from gas money to new clothes to emergency expenses that always seemed to coincide with new video game releases. Oh my god, I breathed, stopping at a message from 3 weeks ago. Derek, he asked you for money to buy pot. That's medical. Medical marijuana that he asked you not to tell me about because I wouldn't understand. Derek, he doesn't have a medical card. I know because I helped him research the application process 6 months ago and he never followed through. Derek's face was flushed now. You're taking everything out of context. The context is that my brother has been systematically manipulating you for months while painting me as the villain who would ruin his chances at getting help. I scrolled to the most recent messages. And apparently it's working so well that he's already planning his next request before you've even recovered from the last one. The phone buzzed in my hand with another message from Marcus, asterisk seriously starting to freak out. Did Sarah find out? She gets crazy jealous when I get help and she doesn't. Asterisk. I held the screen toward Derek. There it is again. Poor Marcus, worried about his crazy, jealous sister. Derek read the message, and something flickered across his face, doubt, maybe, or the first hint that he'd been played. He's just scared, Derek said weakly. He's manipulating you. And it's working perfectly because you want to be the hero so badly that you can't see when someone is using you. Another buzz, asterisk if she found out, just remember what we talked about. She'll try to make this about her, but I'm the one who actually needs help. Asterisk. Derek stared at his phone, the color draining from his face as he finally started to see the pattern I'd been reading for the last 10 minutes. I watched Derek's face as he read Marcus's messages, seeing the exact moment my brother's manipulation tactics became clear to him. The doubt in his eyes was growing, but I could tell he was still fighting it. Sarah, Derek said slowly, maybe we should call Marcus and all sit down together to discuss this. Absolutely not. I set his phone on the coffee table with more force than necessary. I'm not having a family meeting about whether my husband should have told me he was spending our life savings on my brother. That's not a group decision, Derek. But if we could just explain to him that you know now, maybe. Maybe what? Maybe he'll graciously allow you to include your wife in financial decisions about her own money? I shook my head in disbelief. Listen to yourself. You're still trying to manage Marcus's feelings instead of dealing with what you did to our marriage. Derek's phone rang. Marcus again. I should answer, Derek said, reaching for it. He's probably worried. I grabbed the phone before Derek could. He should be worried. His gravy train just derailed. I declined the call and powered the phone off completely. Sarah, that was unnecessary. What's unnecessary is my 26-year-old brother having a panic attack because his sister's husband might stop funding his lifestyle. I crossed my arms. Derek, do you hear yourself right now? Your first instinct isn't to apologize to me or figure out how to rebuild the trust you shattered. It's to comfort Marcus and make sure he knows the money might keep coming. Derek stood up abruptly. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? He started pacing again, that nervous energy that appeared whenever he was cornered. I'm trying to handle a complicated situation without destroying family relationships. Family relationships. I laughed bitterly. What about our relationship, Derek? What about the fact that your wife spent months thinking you didn't value her enough to buy her a decent anniversary gift, while you were secretly playing Santa Claus for her unemployed brother? I got you that keychain because I thought you'd appreciate the sentiment. It was a $2 piece of plastic. The words came out as a shout. Derek, you spent $8,000 on Marcus and couldn't manage more than $2 on your wife. And now you're trying to tell me it was about sentiment? Derek stopped pacing. The money I gave Marcus was different. It was helping someone in crisis. And what was I? Someone who deserved crisis? I stood up to face him. Because that's what you created, Derek. You created a crisis in our marriage by lying to me every single day for months. I wasn't lying. You told me we couldn't afford to fix my car. Lie. You said we needed to build our emergency fund while you were secretly emptying it. Lie. You claimed money was tight while handing out hundreds of dollars for Marcus's date nights. Every single day, Derek. Every conversation about money, every time you made me feel guilty for wanting something basic, you were lying. Derek sank back into his chair, and for a moment he looked genuinely defeated. I was trying to do the right thing. For who? Because it wasn't for me. I grabbed the bank statements I printed earlier and dropped them in his lap. Look at these numbers, Derek. Really look at them. You gave Marcus more money in 3 months than you've spent on me in 3 years of marriage. Derek stared at the papers, and I could see him doing the math, probably for the first time. His face went pale as the reality of his financial priorities became undeniable. I never meant for it to add up like that, he said quietly. But it did add up like that. Because every time Marcus asked for help, you said yes immediately. And every time I asked for something, you made me justify why we could afford it. I sat back down, exhausted by the weight of months of suppressed resentment. Do you have any idea how that made me feel about my place in your life? Derek looked up from the bank statements, and I saw something that looked like the beginning of understanding in his eyes. Sarah, He trailed off, staring at the numbers again. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk Sarah, this is Marcus. Derek's not answering. We need to talk. Asterisk. I stared at the text from Marcus, my anger shifting into something sharper and more focused. He'd gotten my number from somewhere, probably our parents, and now he was trying to go around Derek entirely. Marcus just texted me, I said, holding up my phone. He wants to talk. Derek's head snapped up from the bank statements. What did he say? That you're not answering and we need to talk. I scrolled to my contacts and blocked the unknown number. Too bad. I'm not interested in hearing his side of the story. Derek reached for his phone, then remembered I'd turned it off. Sarah, maybe if you just listened to him. No. I cut him off. Derek, I need you to understand something. This isn't about Marcus anymore. This is about you choosing to lie to your wife for months while making her feel like garbage for wanting basic things. Another text came through from a different number. Asterisk Sarah, please. Derek told me you found out. I can explain everything. This isn't his fault. Asterisk. I showed Derek the screen. He's really panicking now. Got himself a different phone to text from. Derek's face cycled through several emotions as he read Marcus's message. He's trying to protect me. He's trying to protect his income stream. I blocked the second number. Derek, wake up. Marcus isn't worried about your feelings, he's worried about his money supply. My phone immediately rang from yet another number. I declined the call and turned to Derek with growing irritation. How many phones does your unemployed brother have access to? He's probably using friends' phones, or apps. Or maybe, I interrupted, he's using the phone you helped him pay for. Along with the car, the insurance, the rent money, and God knows what else. Derek winced. The phone bill was only $40. Only $40, I repeated. Derek, do you realize you just said only $40 about paying my adult brother's phone bill while you made me feel guilty about buying coffee creamer that wasn't generic? My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Asterisk Marcus is here asking for your number. Says it's urgent. Should I give it to him? Asterisk. I quickly typed back. Asterisk no. And Mom, don't give Derek's information to Marcus either. Family drama, I'll explain later. Asterisk. Derek was watching me type. What's happening now? Marcus went to my parents' house. He's asking for my contact information. I looked up at Derek. How urgent do you think his emergency apartment deposit is feeling right about now? Sarah, you're being cruel. He's probably genuinely scared. Good. The word came out harder than I intended. He should be scared. For 8 months, Marcus has been living consequence-free while other people funded his choices. Maybe a little fear will motivate him to actually get a job. Derek flinched at my tone. When did you become so cold about your own brother? When I realized my own brother was manipulating my husband into bankrupting our marriage. I leaned forward. Derek, in all these months of helping Marcus, did you ever once ask him for a timeline? A plan? Proof that he was actually looking for work? Derek's silence was answer enough. Because I can tell you he hasn't applied for a single job since March. I know because Mom mentions it constantly, she's worried about his complete lack of motivation. But you wouldn't know that, because you were too busy being his hero to actually investigate whether he needed saving. My phone rang again. This time it was my father. I should answer this, I told Derek. Before Marcus convinces my parents that I'm having some kind of breakdown. I swiped to accept the call. Hi Dad. Sarah, honey, Marcus is here and he's pretty upset. Says you and Derek are having some kind of financial disagreement? Dad's voice carried that careful neutrality he used when he sensed family drama brewing. I looked at Derek, who was watching me intently. Something like that. Marcus doesn't really need to be involved, though. Well, he seems to think he does. He's asking me to call Derek directly. Dad, please don't do that. This is between Derek and me. Of course, sweetheart. But Marcus seems genuinely worried about you too. He keeps saying Derek was just trying to help him get back on his feet, and that you might not understand the whole situation. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar frustration of Marcus positioning himself as a reasonable voice in any conflict. Dad, can I ask you something? In the past few months, has Marcus shown you any evidence that he's actually looking for work? A pause. Well, he talks about interviews. Any evidence? Emails, applications, follow-up calls. Anything concrete? Another, longer pause. Now that you mention it, no. But Sarah, the job market is tough right now. For 8 months? Derek was staring at me now, finally starting to see the conversation he'd never thought to have with Marcus. What exactly is going on, Sarah? Derek has been giving Marcus money, Dad. A lot of money. And I just found out about it. I kept my voice even. I think Marcus might be more concerned about that situation than about my marriage. The silence on my father's end stretched uncomfortably long. When he finally spoke, his voice had shifted from concern to something sharper. How much money, Sarah? I glanced at Derek, whose face had gone ashen. He was shaking his head slightly, probably hoping I wouldn't give specifics to my parents. Too bad. $8,000, Dad. Over the past few months. Jesus Christ. I heard Dad's sharp intake of breath. Marcus, get in here. Now. There was shuffling in the background, then Marcus's voice, distant but audible. Dad, you don't understand the whole situation. $8,000, Marcus. Did you take $8,000 from Derek? It wasn't like that. Derek offered to help. $8,000. Dad's voice had dropped to that dangerously quiet tone I remembered from childhood, when one of us was in serious trouble. While you've been telling your mother and me that you're looking for work? Derek was gesturing frantically at me, mouthing hang up, but I stayed on the line. He'd had months to handle this situation privately. Now it was a family matter. Mr. Chen, I can explain, that was Derek's voice in the background. He must have driven over there. My stomach dropped. Dad, is Derek at your house? Just pulled up. Looks like we're all going to have a conversation. Dad, I need to be there. I was already grabbing my keys from the counter. Don't let them spin this into something it's not. Sweetheart, maybe you should stay home and let us sort this out. No. My voice came out sharper than intended. Dad, this is my marriage they're discussing. I'm not being excluded from another conversation about my own life. Derek had apparently heard me through the phone because he called out, Sarah, please don't come over here. This is already complicated enough. Complicated? I shouted toward the phone, knowing Derek could hear me. Derek, you drove to my parents' house to have a secret meeting about the money you secretly gave my brother. The only thing complicated here is how many people you're trying to manage instead of talking to your wife. Dad's voice came back on the line, Sarah, just come over. We'll all sit down and figure this out like adults. I was already heading for the garage. I'll be there in 10 minutes. And Dad? Don't let anyone leave before I get there. Nobody's going anywhere until we sort this mess out. I hung up and grabbed my purse, my hands shaking with adrenaline. Derek had actually driven to my parents' house. While I was sitting at home thinking we were finally going to have an honest conversation about our marriage, he'd snuck out to do damage control with Marcus and my parents. The drive to my childhood home took 8 minutes of increasingly furious internal monologue. By the time I pulled into the driveway behind Derek's car, I was ready to burn every bridge necessary to get to the truth. I could see them through the living room window, Derek and Marcus sitting on the couch while Dad paced in front of them like a prosecutor. Mom was nowhere visible, probably hiding in the kitchen until the shouting stopped. I didn't bother knocking. Well, I announced, stepping into the living room, isn't this cozy? The 3 men in my life having a meeting about my money without me. How perfectly typical. Derek jumped up from the couch. Sarah, I was just trying to explain. Explain to who, Derek? Because your wife is standing right here, and she'd love to hear your explanation. The living room fell silent as everyone stared at me. Marcus looked genuinely terrified for the first time since this whole mess started, while Derek had that deer-in-headlights expression he got whenever his careful plans fell apart. Dad broke the silence first. Sarah, sit down. We were just trying to understand. No, I'll stand, thanks. I crossed my arms and looked directly at Marcus. So, brother dear, how exactly were you planning to explain this to Mom and Dad? The part where you've been lying about job hunting for months while Derek funded your entire lifestyle? Marcus shifted uncomfortably on the couch. I wasn't lying. I'd been looking. Really? Because I called Johnson and Associates yesterday. I pulled out my phone, enjoying the way Marcus's face went pale. You know, the place you claimed you had a second interview with last week? They've never heard of you. Sarah, you called, Derek started. Oh, I called several places. I scrolled through my recent calls. Pinnacle Marketing, where you supposedly had a really good feeling about that interview? No record of any Marcus Chin. Dataflow Solutions, the company you said was very interested in hiring you? They stopped accepting applications in February. Dad's face was getting redder by the minute. Marcus, is this true? Some of those didn't work out. Because you never applied. I pocketed my phone. But you did cash Derek's checks. $8,000 worth of checks, while telling him I'd be weird about money if I knew he was helping you. Mom appeared from the kitchen, wringing her hands. What's all this about $8,000? Derek stood up abruptly. Mrs. Chen, I can explain. Marcus was in genuine financial trouble, and I thought. You thought you'd solve it behind your wife's back? Mom's voice was sharp. Derek, I raised Sarah to expect better from her marriage than that. Marcus finally found his voice. Mom, Sarah's making this sound worse than it is. Derek offered to help, and I was grateful. Grateful enough to ask for another $500 this morning? I pulled up Derek's phone, which I'd conveniently forgotten to give back to him. For an apartment you need by Monday? Or was that another lie to keep the money flowing? You went through Derek's phone? Dad's eyebrows shot up. I went through everything, Dad. Bank statements, emails, text messages. 3 months of carefully planned financial deception. I looked at Derek. Did you tell them about the spreadsheet? The M project budget where you calculated exactly how much of our savings Marcus would need to completely rebuild his life? Derek's face went white. That was just. I was trying to be organized about helping. Organized about lying to your wife, you mean? Mom stepped forward, and I could see she was getting that particular kind of angry that had terrified Marcus and me as children. Derek, how could you think this was acceptable? Because Marcus told him I'd be jealous and controlling if I found out. I turned to my brother, who was now staring at his hands. Isn't that right, Marcus? You specifically warned Derek that I'd make this all about me instead of supporting family? Marcus looked up desperately. Sarah, you have to admit you get stressed about money. I get responsible about money. There's a difference. I sat down across from him, forcing eye contact. Marcus, when's the last time you paid for anything yourself? Your phone, your car insurance, your food, your entertainment? When did you last contribute a single dollar to your own existence? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. That's what I thought. I leaned back in the chair. But somehow, I'm the problem for not wanting to subsidize this lifestyle indefinitely. Dad cleared his throat. Marcus, go pack your things. You have until Sunday to find somewhere else to live. Dad, you can't. 8 months, son. 8 months of lying to your mother and me, and apparently stealing from your sister's marriage. Dad's voice was final. You're 26 years old. Time to figure out how to survive without other people's money. Derek looked panicked. Mr. Chen, maybe that's too extreme. Derek, Mom interrupted coldly, I think you've done enough helping. The room erupted after Mom's cutting remark to Derek. Marcus jumped up from the couch, his face flushed with desperation. This is insane. You're all acting like I committed some crime. Derek offered to help me, I didn't force him. No, you just manipulated him, I shot back. 4 months. While painting me as the villain who'd ruin your chances at getting help. Because you would have. Marcus's composure finally cracked completely. Sarah, you've always been jealous that people want to help me. You can't stand not being the golden child for 5 minutes. The accusation hung in the air like a slap. Even Derek looked shocked at Marcus's tone. Mom stepped forward, her face dangerous. Marcus Chen, you will not speak to your sister that way in my house. It's true though. Marcus was spiraling now, all his careful manipulation tactics abandoned. She's pissed that Derek cares enough about me to actually help, instead of just lecturing me about responsibility like she does. I lecture you about responsibility because you're a 26-year-old man living in your parents' basement. My voice rose to match his. Because you've never held a job longer than 3 months, never paid your own bills, never contributed anything to this family except drama and debt. At least I don't control my husband like some psycho. Marcus. Dad's voice cut through the shouting like a whip. Enough. But the damage was done. Derek was staring at Marcus with something that looked like horror, finally seeing the person he'd been so eager to rescue. Is that really what you think of Sarah? Derek asked quietly. Marcus realized he'd gone too far, but it was too late to backtrack. I just meant, she gets intense about money stuff. She gets intense? Derek's voice was getting louder. Marcus, I've been lying to my wife for months because you convinced me she'd be unreasonable about me helping you. But listening to you right now, maybe the unreasonable one was me for believing you. I felt a flicker of vindication, but it was overshadowed by exhaustion. This whole mess had revealed so much ugly truth about everyone involved. Derek, Sarah, maybe we should all take a step back, Mom started. No, I want to hear this, I interrupted, looking directly at Marcus. Tell me more about how I control my husband. Explain how asking to be included in decisions about my own money makes me a psycho. Marcus looked around the room, realizing he'd lost every ally he'd had 30 seconds earlier. Sarah, I didn't mean. You meant every word. Just like you meant it when you told Derek I'd be jealous of you getting help. Just like you meant it when you asked him not to tell me about the money. I stood up, done with this conversation. You know what the really sad part is, Marcus? I would have helped you. If you'd come to me honestly, explained the situation, asked for a reasonable loan with a payment plan, I would have said yes. Marcus's face crumpled. Really? But instead, you chose to go behind my back, manipulate my husband, and trash my character to justify it. I picked up my purse. So no, you don't get my help now. You get to figure out what independence actually costs. Derek stood up too. Sarah, wait. Can we talk privately? I looked at my husband, really looked at him, and saw someone I barely recognized. Derek, you drove here to have a secret meeting about damage control. While I was at home thinking we were finally going to be honest with each other. His face fell. I was trying to fix things. By managing everyone except your wife. I headed toward the door. I'm going home. When you're ready to have a conversation that doesn't include my brother or my parents, you know where to find me. I made it halfway home before I had to pull over, my hands shaking too badly to drive safely. The adrenaline from confronting everyone was wearing off, leaving behind a hollow exhaustion that felt like grief. My phone buzzed constantly, texts from Mom, missed calls from Derek, even a voicemail from Dad. I turned it off and sat in my car outside a Starbucks, watching normal people go about their Saturday afternoon while my marriage imploded in real time. When I finally made it home, Derek's car wasn't in the driveway. Good. I needed space to think without him trying to fix things with more lies and manipulation. I walked through our house seeing everything differently now. The kitchen where Derek had lectured me about buying name-brand pasta while secretly funding Marcus's entire lifestyle. The living room where he'd given me that pathetic keychain while $8,000 of our money was already gone. The bedroom where he'd hidden his financial betrayal on his laptop every night. 3 years of marriage, and I'd been living with a stranger. My laptop chimed with an email notification. The spa resort, confirming my Monday arrival and thanking me for choosing their premium package. $1,200 for 3 days of luxury that Derek would have said we couldn't afford while he handed Marcus $500 for date money. Another email, Nordstrom, shipping confirmation for my new wardrobe. $800 of clothes to replace the shabby outfits I'd been wearing while Derek preached about fiscal responsibility. I should have felt guilty about the spending spree. Instead, I felt vindicated. Let Derek explain to his beloved Marcus why the money well had dried up. The garage door rumbled open around 6 p.m. Derek's footsteps were heavy as he came inside, and I could hear him pause in the kitchen, probably steeling himself for round 2 of our disaster. Sarah? His voice was tentative. In here, I called from the living room, not bothering to look up from my magazine. Derek appeared in the doorway looking like he'd aged 5 years since morning. His golf clothes were wrinkled, his hair disheveled from running his hands through it too many times. We need to talk, he said. Now we need to talk? After you spent the afternoon at my parents' house trying to control the narrative? I turned a page without reading it. Interesting timing. Derek sat heavily in his chair, the same spot where he'd tried to convince me that Marcus was just scared and needed protection. That's not what I was doing. Really? Then why did you sneak out while I was getting ready to come over? Why didn't you tell me you were going there? Because I knew you'd react exactly like you did. Derek's voice carried a hint of his old defensiveness. You were angry, and I thought if I could explain the situation to your parents first. There it is. I closed the magazine and looked at him directly. You thought you could manage the situation. Just like you managed our finances, and managed Marcus, and managed me. Derek opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to deflate. Maybe you're right. I know I'm right. Derek, do you realize you haven't once, not once today, asked me how I feel about any of this? You've been so busy trying to fix and control and manage that you haven't actually talked to your wife. I'm talking to you now. Now that every other option has been exhausted. I leaned back against the couch cushions. Derek, I have a question, and I want a completely honest answer. When you decided to give Marcus $8,000, at what point did you consider telling me? Derek was quiet for so long I thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. I didn't. You didn't what? I didn't consider telling you. Not really. He looked up at me with something that might have been shame. From the beginning, the plan was to handle it without involving you. The honesty was somehow worse than all the lies. Why? Because I knew you'd want to discuss it to death. Make spreadsheets and payment plans and timelines. And Marcus needed help immediately. So you decided my input wasn't worth the inconvenience. Derek winced. That's not how I thought about it. But that's what you did. I stood up, too restless to keep sitting. Derek, you made a unilateral decision to spend our savings, then constructed an elaborate lie to hide it from me. 4 months. That's not marriage, that's financial abuse. Financial abuse? Derek's voice rose. Sarah, that's dramatic. Is it? You controlled our money through deception. You made me feel guilty about every purchase while secretly spending thousands behind my back. You isolated me from financial decisions about my own life. I counted off on my fingers. That's textbook financial abuse, Derek. The color drained from Derek's face as he processed my words. I never thought. I was trying to help Marcus. You were trying to be the hero. And you were willing to sacrifice your wife's trust and financial security to do it. Derek buried his face in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were red-rimmed. Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I know I screwed up, but can we please figure out how to fix this? I don't know if we can. The words surprised me with their finality. Derek, you didn't just lie about money. You allowed my brother to poison your opinion of me. You let him convince you that I'd be jealous and controlling, and you believed him over me. Marcus was wrong about that. But you didn't know he was wrong. You were perfectly willing to believe the worst about your wife's character based on the word of an unemployed man-child who's never been responsible for anything in his life. Derek flinched at the description, but he didn't argue. That's what hurts the most, I continued. Not even the money, Derek. It's that when push came to shove, you trusted Marcus's assessment of who I am more than you trusted me to be reasonable about my own brother needing help. Derek opened his mouth to respond, but his phone rang, cutting through the moment. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. We both stared at it, the sound filling the silence between us like an accusation. Are you going to answer? I asked. Derek looked at me, then at the phone, his face a portrait of conflicted loyalty that told me everything I needed to know about where this marriage was headed. Derek stared at his phone as Marcus's name flashed on the screen, his finger hovering over the answer button. The seconds ticked by, 3, 4, 5 rings, and I watched my husband's face cycle through indecision. He declined the call. Good choice, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, his phone immediately started ringing again. Marcus wasn't giving up. This time Derek powered the phone off entirely and set it on the coffee table between us like evidence in a trial. There, he said. No more distractions. Just us. Just us, I repeated. Something that apparently never occurred to you when you were making decisions about our money. Derek winced but pressed forward. Sarah, what can I do? Tell me how to fix this, and I'll do it. The question hung between us, and I realized I didn't have a good answer. 3 months ago, maybe even 3 weeks ago, I would have had a list ready, apologize, cut contact with Marcus, promise to never lie again, go to counseling. But sitting here now, looking at the stranger I'd married, I wasn't sure those things would matter. I don't think you can fix this, Derek. His face crumpled. Don't say that. Please. I know I fucked up, but people recover from worse things than this. Do they? Do people recover from finding out their spouse has been living a double life for months? I pulled out my own phone and opened our banking app. Derek, look at this. Really look. I showed him the transfers I'd made that morning, all the money I'd moved from his accounts to mine. $7,000. I took $7,000 from you without asking, without telling you, without considering your feelings about it. Derek stared at the screen, his face pale. How does that feel? I asked. Seeing your money just gone, spent by someone you trusted, on things you had no say in? Terrible, he whispered. But Sarah, that's our money too. Is it? Because for the past 3 months, you've been treating our money like your money to distribute however you saw fit. I pulled the phone back. At least when I spent it on myself. You gave our future to my unemployed brother. Derek was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he finally looked up, there was something different in his expression, less defensive, more broken. You're right, he said simply. Everything you've said today, you're right about all of it. The admission should have felt like victory, but instead it just made me tired. Derek, can I ask you something? When you were lying in bed next to me every night, knowing you'd spent thousands of dollars behind my back, how did that feel? He closed his eyes. Awful. Every night, I'd tell myself I'd figure out how to tell you the next day. But then Marcus would text about needing something else, or you'd mention wanting to save up for something, and I'd convince myself it was better to wait until his situation was more stable. His situation was never going to be stable. Marcus has been unstable for 26 years. I leaned forward. Derek, my parents enabled him through high school, through college, through 6 different jobs he quit because they were beneath him. You were just the latest person to buy into his helpless act. Derek nodded slowly. I see that now. This afternoon, when he started yelling at you, calling you controlling, He shook his head. I've never seen that side of him before. Because you were useful to him. Marcus is charming when he's getting what he wants. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our neighborhood where normal couples were probably having normal Saturday evening conversations. But the moment his money supply was threatened, the mask came off. Behind me, I heard Derek's phone buzz against the coffee table. He turned it back on. Another text from Marcus, he said quietly. What does it say? Derek was quiet for so long that I turned around. His face had gone white as he stared at his phone screen. Derek, what does it say? He looked up at me with something that looked like horror. He's asking if I can loan him money for a security deposit on a different apartment. Says your parents kicking him out is a blessing in disguise because he found a better place, but he needs $1,500 by Monday or he'll lose it. I stared at him. $1,500. Today. After everything that just happened, he's asking you for more money. Derek's hands were shaking as he held the phone. He says he knows things are complicated right now, but this is his chance to really start fresh, and he just needs one more favor. One more favor, I repeated, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Derek, do you see what's happening here? Even now, even after being exposed and kicked out of our parents' house, his first instinct is to hit you up for more money. Derek set his phone down like it was radioactive. Jesus Christ. He's not scared or sorry or embarrassed. He's shopping for his next apartment with money he doesn't have. Money he expects you to give him, I corrected. Because in Marcus's mind, this afternoon was just a minor setback. Derek, the ATM is still open for business. Derek buried his face in his hands. How did I not see this? Because you wanted to be the hero, I said, but there was no cruelness in it anymore, just exhaustion. And Marcus is very good at letting people feel heroic while he bleeds them dry. We sat in silence for several minutes, both staring at Derek's phone as if it might reveal some path forward through the wreckage of our marriage. But I was starting to realize that some things couldn't be fixed with apologies or promises or even genuine remorse. Some things were just broken. Derek's phone buzzed again. And again. And again. He's not stopping, Derek said, staring at the screen like it might bite him. Sarah, he sent 12 messages in the last 5 minutes. I walked over and looked at the latest text. Asterisk Derek, I know you're reading these. Sarah's just upset right now, but she'll come around. She always does. Just send the money tonight and we can sort everything else out later. Asterisk. She'll come around, I read aloud. She always does. Derek, he's counting on you to ignore your wife and send him money anyway. Derek's face cycled through emotions I'd never seen before, anger, disgust, something that looked like grief for the person he thought Marcus was. I can't believe I fell for this, he whispered. His phone rang. Marcus calling again. This time Derek answered, but he put it on speaker and set it on the coffee table between us. Marcus, stop calling. Derek, thank God. Listen, I know today got crazy, but Sarah will calm down. She's always been dramatic about money stuff. Just send me the deposit money and... No. Derek's voice was steady in a way I hadn't heard all day. Silence on the other end. Then, what do you mean, no? I mean no more money. Ever. For anything. Derek, you can't be serious. You know I'm good for it. When, Marcus? When have you ever been good for anything? Derek looked at me as he spoke, and I saw something shift in his expression. When have you ever paid anyone back? When have you ever followed through on any promise you've made? That's not fair. What's not fair is me giving you $8,000 while my wife drove a broken-down car because I told her we couldn't afford to fix it. Derek's voice was getting stronger. What's not fair is you calling my wife controlling and jealous for wanting honesty in her own marriage. Derek, you're letting Sarah manipulate you. No, Marcus. You manipulated me. 4 months. And I was so desperate to feel like a good guy that I let you turn me against my own wife. Derek stood up, pacing now. Do you have any idea what you've cost me? Not just the money, my marriage. You might have cost me my marriage. I felt something loosen in my chest hearing those words. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something like the possibility of it. Sarah's being ridiculous. Sarah drained my bank accounts this morning, Derek cut him off. Took every dollar I had left and spent it on herself. And you know what? Good for her. At least when she spent our money, she spent it on someone who deserves it. The silence on Marcus's end stretched long enough that I thought he might have hung up. You can't cut me off, he finally said, and his voice had changed, harder, uglier. I know things about you, Derek. I know you've been lying to Sarah about other stuff too. Derek's face went white. What are you talking about? The credit card you opened last year. The one Sarah doesn't know about. Should I tell her about that too? My stomach dropped. What credit card? Derek closed his eyes, defeated. Sarah, I can explain. How much? I asked quietly. It's not what you think. How much, Derek? 4,000. But it was for emergencies. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Emergencies like my brother's car payments? Marcus's voice came through the speaker, triumphant now. See, Derek? You need me to keep quiet about your other secrets. So let's figure out this apartment deposit. Derek walked over to his phone and spoke directly into it. Marcus, if you ever contact me or my wife again, I'll tell your parents exactly how you just tried to blackmail me. I'll show them every text, every manipulation, every lie you've told over the past 6 months. You wouldn't. Try me. Derek's voice was ice. And Marcus? Good luck with your fresh start. Hope you figure out what it's like to actually work for something. He hung up and immediately blocked Marcus's number. Then he turned to me, his face a mixture of shame and something that looked like relief. Sarah, the credit card. Later. I held up my hand. Right now, I just need to know one thing. Are you done lying to me? Derek looked me straight in the eyes. Yes. Completely done. Whatever it costs. I stared at my husband, really looked at him, and saw someone I recognized again. Not the man I'd married, maybe, but someone who might be capable of becoming that person again. It's going to cost everything, I said quietly. Every secret, every account, every decision. No more managing me, no more protecting me from information about my own life. Derek nodded. Everything. I promise. His phone buzzed one final time. A text from an unknown number, asterisk, you'll regret this. Asterisk. I picked up Derek's phone and typed back, asterisk, already do. I regret not seeing you clearly 3 years ago. Asterisk. Then I blocked that number too, and handed the phone back to my husband. Now, I said, settling back onto the couch. Tell me about this credit card.